Okay, so what's going on? So yesterday I streamed some commentary. I also was not planning on doing it at that moment, and I had already taken my nighttime edible. So it was kind of funny, There I am, repeating these long technical paragraphs that I've been saying for decades, but then like forgetting why I was saying them. So that was fun. Hopefully, I'll do a little better this time. So I had a friend critique me, and he said I should smile more. Um, so more on that later. He also said that my T-shirt was ridiculous. I mean, he's wrong about a lot of things, but I did have like a turtleneck on, and this is like a workout top, and I'm whatever. It is what it is. Okay, so today we're gonna react to this video. I haven't ever watched this woman before. Actually, I see her a lot in my YouTube feed, and every time I see her, I kind of like roll my eyes because she's just giving like, I just got divorced and I hate men. And like, while I understand that point of view, I do. I feel like I personally have moved on from that. I'm not saying it's not good. Look, I just want less of that in my life right now. But I listened to like a couple seconds of this, and it was kind of interesting. So let's watch it, see what she has to say, and I'm gonna try to do it for like 20 minutes, see how far we get. The video is like 12 minutes long, so we might even finish it. All right, here we go.
Can we please stop calling it toxic and start calling it misogyny? Every time I hear someone
So let me just say really quickly, I think both of these terms, toxic and misogyny, are like very triggering for people right now. I wish I could, I'm just like, I'm kind of using different language to people in hopes that people might listen to me, but it is real. We do prefer things that men do and over things that women do. That is my experience. My experience with that isn't even, me being like getting the short end of the stick as a woman. The opposite, actually. I've kind of always been a bit of a tomboy. They call it a pick-me these days. Can't be it. Anyway, I was like that kind of girl. I liked to do boy things, like from the jump, like from like literally nursery school, whatever. And I know that I got like better responses in terms of being listened to more when I was doing those boy things. That's just my experience. So I don't think it's too much of a stretch to from that experience where me just getting positive feedback for doing boy-coded things and not for doing girl-coded things. that is like, from that experience, it's easy. It's not too far of a conclusion for me to think, oh yeah, like we as a society prefer, at least the people I know seem to prefer male-coded behaviors and activities over female-coded behaviors and activities. What else that means, I don't know, but it does mean something, and it is not nothing. Okay.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video on the channel.
Can we please stop calling it toxic and start calling it misogyny? Every time I hear someone describe abuse as toxic, I flinch, I cringe. Not because it's completely wrong, but because it's lazy. It's some little soft word for a hard truth. It's a way to make abuse sound like bad chemistry between two people instead of what it really is, a belief system that tells men that they're entitled to control, dominate.
All right, so we've got toxicity, misogyny, and abuse. And those are three different words, and I think they mean three different things. I don't really like, as far as I know, the word toxicity just means has the property of being poisonous. When people apply it to humans and their behavior, I kind of hate it. Because it's always kind of said with this, like, kind of victim mentality, and I've thought this the whole time when it first came out, like back when I was in grad school, and like the first time I was there, because I took a break, which is interesting. You always hear like people say like toxic, like when they're like acting very offended and victim-like. So I kind of didn't like the term for that reason. Misogyny makes sense. I've heard my whole life. I feel like I've been around people at least not respecting women. I don't know what other term we need to use for that. And then abuse. I don't know if misogyny is a form of abuse. It's interesting. I guess misogyny is a perspective or like a worldview, and because of it, it can sort of bring about abusive behaviors. But somebody can be misogynistic without being abusive if they just, I guess, stay away from women. Maybe, I don't know. There's a case in which it's possible, I'm sure.
And take from women. I'm Lisa Sunny. I'm a toxic and abusive relationship expert, author, and coach. And I've lived through this, I have studied it, and I have spent years helping thousands of women just get away from it. And I'm telling you, when we keep calling this toxic, we help it hide. Toxic is vague. It's Instagram safe. It's a way to...
So I'd kind of like to do something like what she's doing, but not the way that she's doing it. My goal here, look, like I realize it might be over for me. Maybe I blew it. Fine. Shit happens. We have consequences. We figure it out. Fine. But it does suck. Like, I do not like being alone. Like, I do not like it. And I loved being in a relationship. I thrived in it. But I don't count like the early ones really so much, but like both of the ones that I was in my 30s, I really liked. I loved that, It's my favorite way to do life, and I don't want people to miss out on that. So I want to see if there's a way. To maybe help people get along a little bit better, because men and women seem to hate each other, and I hate that for us. Am I Jewish? No. Are you?
What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video.
Can we please stop calling it toxic and start calling it misogyny? Every time I hear someone describe abuse, lived through this, I have studied it, and I have spent years helping thousands of women just get away from it. And I'm telling you, when we keep calling this toxic, we help it hide. Toxic is vague. It's Instagram safe. It's a way to avoid saying words that make people uncomfortable. And that's exactly the problem. If we say he's toxic, we can brush it off as like a personality clash or a bad match or someone who just needs to work on himself. But if we call it misogyny, there's no confusion because we're naming it for what it is: a worldview, a set of beliefs, and a system that benefits men at women's expense. I just watched a video of a man talking.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is a worldview more or less changeable than a behavior or a personality? I think a worldview is actually easier to change than a personality, because people just might not have all of the evidence that they need to have a particular worldview. So honestly, either way, if somebody told me so-and-so is toxic, that wouldn't deter me. If someone said so-and-so is misogynistic, it wouldn't deter me. I would need to find out for myself. But as far as making them come apart on account of a worldview being unchangeable, I'd have to disagree with that. I don't think a worldview is unchangeable. That said, if the worldview is misogyny and you're a woman, it's kind of stacked against you, yeah, right? The person already doesn't want to listen to you, so you have to find other ways to kind of get across to them.
Talking about how his colleague slept with an underage woman. You mean R-worded a child? Yeah, let's get the language right. Let's start calling things what they actually are. Misogyny isn't just some open cartoon villain hatred of women. It's not
So there does seem to be this push to I guess they allow very young girls to get married. I do wish I had gotten married in my 20s, or early 30s. I do. But 20s and early 30s is not 17.
Limited to the guy who makes crude jokes online or tells you to get back in the kitchen. It's the men who say they love women while expecting them to carry all of the emotional weight. It's in the boyfriend who doesn't yell but still makes every decision without you. It's the husband who praises you to other people but privately ignores your needs. And
I don't know what to make of this.
Here's why this matters, okay? Misogyny is at the core of abuse because it's what creates entitlement. And I've got lots of videos about how entitlement is the root cause of abuse.
I don't know, what she described there to me, maybe my standards are warped, but it didn't sound abusive. But sleeping with a teenager, not only abusive, but should definitely remain illegal. I don't care about age gaps. I'm not jealous of a younger woman. I would never turn on a younger woman like that. No, that's not what's going on here. I think it's very bad for children to have to deal with that stuff.
Abusers don't just lash out because they lose control. They abuse because they believe that they have the right to. That belief doesn't just appear out of thin air. It's learned, it's reinforced, and it's rewarded in a culture where male comfort matters more than female safety. We're always talking about men's friggin' feelings as if it's more important than the safety of women. So
I don't know that we are talking about men's feelings, but we do. Okay. I will say that my experience on Twitter does seem to be more focused on men's feelings than on the safety of women. Maybe they think, oh, well, I know that I'm not going to harm a woman, therefore I can focus on my feelings. Okay, there are empirical questions there, and even though I did not take my edible, I'm not focused enough to map them out right now, but maybe that will be the next challenge.
But we don't just soften the word toxic. We call it immature, we say boys will be boys, and we downgrade abuse to
I don't think you're allowed to say that anymore.
Bad communication. You even hear other men say, well, those guys, those are not real men, as if it magically separates them from the rest. But they are men, and they're real men, and they're products of the same system that shaped all men, and they're behaving exactly how the system teaches them to behave when it comes to women. Entitled.
All right, so she's my age, maybe a little older. I think men are our dating pool, right? So our dating pool growing up and in our 20s was what? People born between 1977 and 1984. Hers maybe a little bit earlier than that. And I think maybe those people were brought up to be misogynistic. I don't think it was super encouraged, honestly. I think it got it got squashed pretty well. Certainly 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. But they did grow up they were raised to take on more misogynistic beliefs. I buy that. I don't think that boys growing up today are taught that. like, at all. I think if anything, they're taught that, like, the future is female and they suck. And I don't know how that... I am concerned about that. There are lots of things to say about it. I'm sure all kinds of opposing and interesting and informative views, to take on that. But I don't want to be part of something that hurts children. Obviously, I'm not a monster. And I don't think she is either, but I don't think people are thinking about the difference between the way that boys were raised when we were growing up and what boys are dealing with now. I think it's very different. I do need to formulate an empirical question before I go further with that, though.
Controlling and unaccountable. Infantilizing them, these grown men, and calling them boys or not real men, it doesn't erase the fact that they are fully grown adult males making deliberate choices. Misogyny isn't insecurity, it's not toxic energy, it's not immaturity, it is a belief system, and it is the literal foundation.
So there's like a lot of back and forth in this discourse where it seems like people on the straight lady side, they're like, you're not accountable, man, and men on the straight man side are like, you're not accountable, lady. And it's just like that Spider-Man meme of people just pointing at each other and saying that they're not accountable. It's annoying. However, it is good to like it tests us. She's saying that people aren't being accountable. When I hear men say women aren't accountable for XYZ, I think that through. I don't just dismiss it. I think about it, and very often I do reject what they're saying, but not always. So I think that I don't know if men are going to listen to her, but if you are and you want to challenge yourself to be the best you can be, at least listen to her. You don't have to accept everything she's saying. But see if you can hold yourself to that standard if it's a reasonable one.
Of male entitlement. And it's everywhere, including in men who claim that they would never be like that. Now, we can't really talk about this with misogyny and all that without addressing toxic masculinity and how men react to that. Now, people throw around that term like it means all masculinity is bad, and that's what some of the dummy men think.
Okay. So yes, the term toxic masculinity has been misinterpreted to mean that all men are bad. But I think people who are using it as if or you could use it that way sometimes. I think for the most part when people use it, they don't say all men are bad. I think they're talking about, like this inability to feel your feelings, or I don't know, like not listening to women, or viewing sex as a sport, women as conquests. That sucks. Stop doing that.
Right? But that's not what it means at all. Toxic masculinity is actually the extreme performance of male gender roles, like dominance and emotional suppression and aggression.
Right, I was going to say, she probably shouldn't call them dummies if she wants, but whatever. I mean, I guess it's, I don't know.
And sexual conquest and, frankly, seeing women as lesser. It's a very rigid script, and actually it sucks for men. It sucks for men.
I do believe that. I don't think that extreme, the pressure to conform to anything is good for anyone, ever. I'm trying to think of a counter argument, and I'm thinking of a couple, but I don't want to get distracted.
Women too, but it sucks for men. Can I make that more clear? It's not inevitable. It's not natural. It is taught. Now, here's the part that men pretend not to understand, but I believe they do. When they cry about well, what about toxic femininity? Toxic femininity exists, but it's actually not modern feminism like so many men seem to think. I would say, right? I don't think they actually think that. That's my...
Okay, so whatever modern feminism is, if she's talking about internet feminism, so people like YV Edit, who I think is a really smart young person, I really do. I think she has a lot of valuable points to consider. But that point of view where it's my money is my money and your money is my money, if we're coming from a place of, I guess, a lower status, I can understand taking that point of view, but I don't think American women, I don't think we do have it. We are at such a lower status that we need to go that far.
My opinion. No matter how badly they want it to be, modern feminism is toxic femininity. It's like they don't know that Google is free, because that's not what it means at all. Toxic masculinity is the extreme performance of male gender roles. Toxic femininity is the extreme performance of female gender roles. It's measuring your worth by how submissive, how self-sacrificing and pleasing you can be to men. It's tolerating harm to keep the peace. It's prioritizing his comfort over your safety. See the pattern?
Right, and so I'm worried that like I could get that criticism. So like I said, my main goal is, I'm bummed out that I'm probably going to be. I don't want the kids to hate each other.
Toxic masculinity keeps men on top. Toxic femininity keeps women in their place. Both are tools of the exact.
No, I would say the toxic femininity is the like overcorrection of the attitude of, my money's my money, your money's my money. I would say but we can work with two different definitions, fine. An extreme gender role that puts women on, subservient, that's across the board. I have a lot of opinions on a lot of things, and I don't want to say all of them right now. Let's just try to finish this.
Exact same system, the patriarchy. So when men use toxic.
Oh yeah, so patriarchy is another word that I try to stay away from because it triggers people.
Femininity as some way to dismiss women's experiences. Are they just uninformed, or are they deliberately twisting the definition to shut you up? I have a theory. Anyway, they don't even know what they're talking about, right? Here's the irony. I think this is ironic. The very women that toxically masculine men claim to want, right? The submissive, self-sacrificing, sort of deferential women who just shrink themselves to fit a man's ego, right? The compliant ones, the good women who keep their peace. Those women are the embodiment of toxic femininity. That is exactly what the role demands. So when men just throw around toxic femininity as it's some kind of like feminist brainwashing, they are actually showing how little they understand. Because the truth is, they don't hate toxic femininity at all. They rely on it. They want it. They need women to keep performing it because it props up their own entitlement. They act like they're insulting women by using the term, but really, they're just describing the exact version of women that their misogyny prefers. That's the joke that they don't realize that they're making. They rail against toxic femininity.
Yeah, so this like attitude of like, you guys are so dumb, it's a really easy one to take on, and I've definitely taken it on myself. It's very satisfying, especially if you are coming, so like I said, she and I are probably about the same generation, and growing up it is my experience that boy stuff was exalted over girl stuff. And so if that is your experience growing up, you do have this you develop this desire to be like, you're not the boss of me. And in the United States, our generation, so in the 80s and 90s, the picture wasn't like, you guys have to, I don't know, stay in the kitchen and shut up and you suck or whatever. No, I mean, girls were encouraged to pursue careers. That was always a thing. But as far as like, just in general, sort of girls not being listened to and girl stuff not being respected, that is the experience. So it does make you kind of want to be like, yeah, I get it. But also that's kind of it. That's kind of as far as we need to go, and maybe we can stop, especially now that things, I believe, are so different.
But it's the very thing that protects their power. Who they don't like are feminists, who literally just want equality and equal opportunity and no more. But
that is true, and the more we make these jokes, the less you guys believe that feminism is about equality. And some people don't think that that women and men should be equal or even equivalent or complementary, maybe complementary, I don't know. So people really think that sort of across the board, every man is better than every woman. That seems wrong. Also, what does better mean? Anyway, see, I didn't even take my edible and I'm distracted. That's the ADHD.
The point. Soft language like toxic. It keeps the conversation safe for men. It makes it about just like a few bad individuals, just a few bad apples, instead of a culture that trains men to feel entitled to women's time and bodies and labor. Now, misogyny doesn't always look violent. Sometimes it looks like nice, right? The guy who buys flowers, but he'll ignore your no. The man who says he supports your career, but if you work late, he's going to be all...
I mean, wait. Ignoring notes, being grumpy that someone's working late, it's not just something that men do to women. It's something that women do to men. And also, like, you can't live with your note being ignored. You can't, like, live with somebody being grumpy because they wanted to hang out with you. I mean, of course, if the balance is one person is doing this over and over again and the other person isn't, then yeah, that's a big deal. But I don't think this is something that, in my experience with my relationships, this wasn't something that I feel like men were doing to me at a greater extent.
One who listens to your feelings, but he finds a way to just always make it about him, right? These are not quirks. These are patterns, and they come from the same root, a belief that women exist to meet men's needs. When I was in it, I didn't even see it as misogyny, right? I actually thought he was complicated. I thought we had bad communication. I thought that if I worked harder and loved him better, that we could get back to the good old days. And I used to say to myself, it's just toxic. Like, this was sort of like this vague kind of cloud over the relationship. But it wasn't vague at all, because it was actually really specific. He was acting exactly how he'd been taught that men should act: in charge, entitled, and unaccountable. And here's the truth. This is so much bigger than one man or one relationship. Misogyny.
I'm not laughing because I think she's, like, definitely wrong. I understand what she's saying. I'm laughing because, like, just that Spider-Man meme. Everybody in this discourse is saying the same thing. You're entitled and not accountable. That's just what everybody's pointing at each other and saying. And I would like to move past that.
Is why women are blamed for their own abuse, why men get praised for doing the bare minimum in fatherhood, why sexual harassment gets brushed off as a misunderstanding, why she's crazy is still the most socially acceptable way to discredit a woman. And if you're a man who made it this far in this video, you hear all of this, your response should not be, not all men. The question is, do you benefit from this system? And the answer is yes, period.
Yeah, so they don't think that. So if you're trying to convince somebody of something, you have to start with premises that they agree with. That's just like argument 101. You can't start with the, like, you're misogynistic, listen to me. You have to, like, define what it is. And it's a lot of work. And it is unfair that people who have been, you know, historically in the, if, you know, a group of people that historically has been in the marginalized, I guess, category, right? It is unfair when those people, like, the burden's on them to explain how this is harmful. That sucks. But there's no other way, because you don't know unless you experienced it. You know? So, like, when people talk about, I don't know, you know, what they go through with racism, obviously I don't experience that, but I don't know where I was going with this, I forgot already, but I know that I haven't experienced, you know, racism against non-white people. People, you might say, oh, that's the same. Not the same. And I know that just because of my experience, you know, as a female person. I don't know, anyway.
At the end, if you're not actively pushing back,
I should maybe, like, no, I'm fine. I'll get better at this.
Against it, you are part of the reason that it survives. Because misogyny does not need every man to be violent. It just needs enough men to stay silent, to laugh at the jokes, to believe that she's toxic when he says it, to avoid all the hard conversation.
That is true.
Because they make you uncomfortable. I literally just watched a video of a man assaulting a woman, snatching her phone, slamming her across the room, and the comment.
Okay, my dog's barking. That means my goddaughter's probably coming home. I'm 9 minutes past what I wanted. We're not going to finish this video. That was today. We'll see what kind of feedback I get from this.